In this episode, you'll discover what may really be keeping you stuck in a career that no longer fits, and what becomes possible when you stop overriding what you already know. Welcome to the Midlife Reinvention Podcast, a podcast helping women in career and life transitions achieve clarity on their next steps so they can transform uncertainty into an energizing next chapter. I'm your host, Kavita Ahuja, and the founder of It's My Time Now Coaching. If you're wondering what's next in your career or life, you are in the right place. Through solo and guest episodes, you'll gain practical tips, tools, and inspiration to help you uncover blocks, gain confidence, and be, do, and have what you want. I rediscovered myself after the age of 50, and I know you can too. It's my time now to help you do just that. I'm so excited you're here. Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Midlife Reinvention Podcast. I hope you're doing really well. Today, I want to talk to you about something specific that I've experienced myself and that I see time and time again with the women who come to me. And that is this. You know your career no longer fits, so why are you still stuck? That is very different from simply having a bad week at work or feeling vaguely restless for a little while. Very often, you may still be doing well. You may still be respected, and you may still have moments where you tell yourself that maybe you should just stay because this is good enough. And then, almost immediately, that heavy feeling comes back. The dread before Monday, the drop in energy when you open your computer, and that sense that your work is taking more from you than it should. What makes this especially hard is that you're probably not being passive about it. You have thought about it a lot. You may have looked at other roles or updated your resume even, or maybe even taken a course, talked it through with friends, or gone back and forth in your own head so many times that you're tired of hearing yourself think about it. You may even have made a real move already. You may have stepped away from one role or changed something significant, only to find that the bigger questions came right with you. So now you are in that frustrating middle ground where you know too much to keep pretending, but not enough to move with confidence. And that is where a lot of women I've seen start turning on themselves. They start asking, what is wrong with me? Why can't I handle so much in other parts of my life and still feel so stuck here? Why can I see that something is off and still not know what to do about it? And I think that is where we often misunderstand the problem, because usually the issue is not a lack of effort. You are not doing nothing. You are likely doing a lot. You may have, for example, written your resume or rewritten your resume twice and still not sent it anywhere. Not because you're lazy, but because some part of you knows the bigger issue is not the resume. You may have spent evenings scrolling job postings, maybe saving a few, and then closing the laptop because none of them really felt like the real answer. And you may have talked to your partner or your sister or your closest friends so many times that you already know what they're going to say. You may have told yourself to just get through this quarter, this year, this school year, this project, this review cycle, this season of life, and then you will think about yourself. But the questions don't go away, my friend. They follow you into the rest of your life. Part of you is in the meeting maybe and answering the emails or getting through the day, while another part is quietly asking, how much longer can I do this? Is this really it? And what am I missing? Your version of this may look a little different. Perhaps you have already left a role that had become too much, and thinking that the act of leaving would have made everything clearer, and instead once the noise died down, the deeper questions were still there. Without that role to hide inside, you find yourself face to face with fear, self-doubt, and unsettling realization that stepping away from one thing does not automatically tell you what comes next. Or maybe you have stayed in a profession that gave you stability or structure and a certain kind of success, but something in you has been fading for a long time. You could be in healthcare or education or law, even finance, operations, consulting, leadership, and any other field of work where being capable and dependable becomes second nature. From the outside, it looks solid, but inside you feel flat, tired, and less like yourself. Another version of this may be when you know you have outgrown your role. You have taken the initiative, worked hard, spoken up, even tried to earn the next step, and waited to be recognized. And yet somehow you are still in the same place, still overgiving, still proving, and still wondering whether to stay and fight for something that should not need this much fighting in the first place. These are all different examples, but they do carry the same underlying tension. Your work is no longer a good fit, but the next step is not clear enough to trust it yet. And that cost does not stay neatly contained to work. It can start showing up everywhere else. You may notice that your evenings are gone before they begin because you're mentally wrung out. You may be sitting with your family or your partner and not really there because some part of you is still replaying the day or dreading the next one. You may have less patience, less creativity, and less room for anything that feels like you. And for some other people, the cost is time. It's not in an abstract way, but in that unsettling moment when you realize another year has gone by and that you're still in the same internal debate. You're still saying, maybe after this project, maybe after this bonus season, maybe after things settle down, maybe after I have a little more certainty. And for some, the cost is opportunity. You don't apply for the role, you don't explore the idea, and you don't let yourself seriously consider what you actually want because you keep telling yourself that it's not practical enough, not clear enough, or not safe enough. And for many women, the cost is energy. You get so used to managing the drain that you stop noticing how much of your life is now organized around coping with work. Weekends become recovery. Your own interests get pushed aside, and the parts of you that used to feel curious, creative, or energized start to feel far away. That is why staying stuck in the wrong career is not neutral. Even if you're still functioning, even if you're still doing good work, and even if nobody around you sees the problem, it is still costing you something. And usually it is costing you more than you let yourself admit. These are not made-up costs. I see them articulated every day by women who come to me. Then confidence starts getting mixed up in all of that. You begin to wonder whether you're indecisive, whether you are unrealistic, whether you expect too much, or whether the problem is not the job after all, but you. This is one of the hardest parts of the stage because the longer you stay in something that does not fit, the easier it becomes to stop trusting your own signals. You tell yourself that it is not that bad. You remind yourself of the benefits, the security, and the things that look good from the outside. You say, maybe all jobs feel like this. Maybe this is just adulthood. Maybe this is just what being responsible looks like. But a role can be stable and still be wrong for you now. You can be grateful and depleted at the same time. You can be very good at something and still know deep down that it is costing you too much. There are a few misconceptions that keep many women stuck, and they sound so reasonable that you may not even realize they are part of the problem. One is, I should stay because I'm good at it. That is not a good enough reason on its own because being good at something can keep you in the wrong place for years. You may be highly skilled, highly respected, and still completely misaligned. Another one is, I can't do anything until I know exactly what comes next. That one sounds reasonable, but it often becomes a trap. You wait for perfect clarity, and in the meantime, you keep giving your life to something that already feels wrong. Most real change does not begin with certainty, it begins with honesty. Then there is this. Maybe this is just work, and maybe no one really feels aligned. That belief can keep you settling for far less than what is possible. No, work does not need to feel perfect all the time, but there is a big difference between ordinary challenges and chronic misfit. Just as there is a difference between being stretched and being depleted, and a difference between having a hard season and living in the wrong life for too long. And then there's the one a lot of capable women carry. I should be able to figure this out on my own. Maybe, but that belief often keeps you circling in your own head for far too long, or far longer than necessary. Being smart does not mean you can always see yourself clearly from the inside. And sometimes the very fact that you are thoughtful and self-aware is what lets you rationalize your way out of the truth. So no, the problem is not that you are lazy or dramatic, ungrateful, or incapable. The problem is that you may have been trying to manage a real career misalignment with logic alone, and logic is often not enough when part of you already knows the fit is gone. And that is where the conversation starts to change. It usually does not change when you force yourself to come up with the perfect answer. It starts changing when you stop minimizing what you already know, when you stop saying this is fine when it isn't, when you stop brushing past what your body, your energy, and your inner life have been trying to tell you, and when you stop treating your dissatisfaction like a flaw in your character. Once that happens, you have a little more room, and this is what I really want you to hear. When you stop living inside those misconceptions, you can think more clearly. You can notice what actually matters to you now, and you can begin asking better questions than simply, what job should I take next? You might start asking, what kind of work would use my strengths well now? What actually gives me energy? What kind of contribution feels meaningful at this stage of my life? What am I no longer willing to trade away? This is also when an understanding your ikigai, or reason for being, can be very helpful. Not as another concept to study, but as a way of getting back in touch with yourself. When you begin to understand your strengths, what matters to you now, what feels meaningful, and what genuinely brings you alive, your next move stops feeling so random. You are no longer only trying to get away from something that is draining you. You are starting to move towards something that really fits. And that is where hope comes in. Because the picture on the other side of this is not just, I finally left my job. It is much more personal than that. It can look like waking up and not feeling that weight in your body before the day has even started. It can look like doing work that still uses your experience and your strengths, but in a way that feels more natural, more energizing, and more like you. It can look like having more of yourself available at the end of the day. More patience, more creativity, more presence, more space to think, and more space to breathe. And that is where energy matters so much. When you stay too long in work that no longer fits, it often keeps you in a more catabolic state, where you're bracing and pushing and managing and coping and just getting through. And even when you're functioning well, there is a cost. When you, however, begin moving towards work that is more aligned with your ikigai, with your strengths, what matters to you, what feels meaningful, and how you want to contribute, you start experiencing more anabolic energy instead. There's more openness, more possibility, more steadiness, and more sense that your life is moving with you instead of against you. And I have seen this in my work and witnessed it with countless women. That does not mean that every day feels easy. It means your energy is no longer being drained by misalignment in the same way. You start feeling more like yourself again. You start trusting yourself more. You stop circling quite so much, and you can see options more clearly, and you feel less trapped inside your own life. That is the picture. Not a fantasy, not perfection, but a life and career that fit better, where your work supports you more than it depletes you, and where you are no longer spending so much of your energy overriding what you know. Usually, the first real movement is quieter than most people expect. You must acknowledge the truth that this no longer fits, that this is costing me, and I do not want to keep living like this. That is not the whole answer, but is often the first honest one, and from there, things can start to move. If you are listening to this and recognizing yourself in it, and you want a place to sort through it with someone who understands how layered this can be, I would love to support you. And this is exactly what I do in a clarity call. We can look at what is happening underneath the stuckness, what your current career may be costing you, and what a more aligned next chapter could start to look like for you. You can find the link in the show notes. And if there's one thing I want to take with you today, it's this. Feeling stuck in a career that no longer fits does not mean you are failing. It usually means something important in you is ready to be heard.